Top 13 horror stories that ended up being true. Horror movies can give a fright, but so can a good ghost story. Suspense is all about timing and gullibility, and if you can pull off both, you've got a hit. But what happens when the lines between fact and fiction start to blur? You often hear stories of people claiming that they've seen ghosts, aliens, or other supernatural beings. If you turned on the local news, you've definitely heard about a grisly murder or two. Sometimes it's a story even Stephen King couldn't dream of coming up with himself. That's when you start trusting in the strange. Once in a while, a story of a dreadful disappearance, demonic possession, or town full of devil worshippers will land in the local paper. Whether it's real or fiction, we often never find out. Maybe they're crazy, but maybe they're right. You be the judge. The Enfield Monster. In 1973, a man in Enfield, Illinois, told reporters that he saw a weird little creature lurking in his yard. Per the Mount Vernon Register News, resident Henry McDaniel stated it had 3 legs on it, a short body, 2 little short arms, and 2 pink eyes as big as flashlights. The police later found scratches on the door screen and footprints that looked like a dog's but with 6 toes. If they do find it, McDaniel said in the newspaper, they will find more than one, and they won't be from this planet. I can tell you that. To this day, no explanation has ever been found. The Suicide Hotel. In Colombia, the Hotel del Salto has more stories as one of the most haunted places on earth, more than it does actual tenants. Turned into a museum, the hotel was designed by designer and architect Carlos Arturo Tapias back in 1923, overlooking the Tequendama Falls. The views were said to be spectacular, but guests kept getting a little too close to the falls. Translated to Hotel of the Leap, the Hotel del Salto is full of stories of people leaping to their deaths. According to local legend, the indigenous Muisca tribe escaped from Spanish colonizers by leaping off the cliffs some centuries before. The Axe Murderhouse. The Villisca Axe Murderhouse in Villisca, Iowa, is a well-known tourist attraction for ghost hunters and horror lovers alike. The site of a gruesome unsolved 1912 murder in which 6 children and 2 adults had their skulls completely crushed by the axe of an unknown perpetrator was purchased in 1994, restored to its 1912 condition, and converted into a tourist destination. It costs $428 a night to stay at the old haunted home, where visitors always report strange paranormal experiences, such as visions of a man with an axe roaming the halls or the faint screams of children. But in November of 2014, the haunting took a darker turn. Robert Stephen Larson Jr. of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, was on a regular recreational paranormal visit with his friends when true horror struck. His companions found him stabbed in the chest, an apparently self-inflicted wound, called 911, and Larson was brought to a nearby hospital before being helicoptered to Creighton University Medical Center in Omaha. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office said Larson suffered the self-inflicted injury at about 12:45 a.m., which is around the same time the 1912 axe murders in the house began. Larson recovered from his injuries but has never spoken publicly about what occurred that day. For Martha Lynn, the owner of the home, the incident was very upsetting. It's publicity but it's not exactly the kind of publicity you desire to have. I don't want people thinking that when they come to the Veliska Axe Murderhouse, something's going to happen that's going to make them do something like that. The house remains open for tourist visits and overnight stays today. The Haunted Doll. When you think of haunted dolls, it's likely the creepy old Victorian looking porcelain kind that springs to mind, none of which you probably have laying around. Still, don't get too comfortable around any kids' toys too soon. Though, a Disney's Frozen Elsa doll that was gifted for Christmas in 2013 in the Houston area made headlines earlier this year when it seemingly became haunted. The doll recited phrases from the movie Frozen and sang Let It Go when a button on its necklace was pressed. For 2 years, it did that in English. Mother Emily Madonna said in 2015 it started doing it, alternating between Spanish and English. There wasn't a button that changed these, it was just random. The family has owned the doll for more than 6 years and never changed its batteries. The mother says the doll would randomly begin to speak and sing, even with its switch turned off. The family decided to throw this creepy doll out in December of 2019. Weeks later, they found it inside a bench in the living room. The kids insisted they didn't put it there, and I believed them because they wouldn't have dug through the garbage outside. Madonna told KPRC2 Houston News.
Ojalá jugáramos en la nieve todo el tiempo. Hacer magia con nieve juntas es muy divertido. A mi hermana Ana y a mí nos gusta jugar en la nieve dentro del castillo.
At that point, Elsa ceased to sing the English rendition of Let It Go altogether, speaking only Spanish when pressed. The family then double-bagged the bizarre doll and placed it at the bottom of their garbage, which was taken out on garbage day. They went on a trip shortly after, but when they returned, Elsa too had come back and was waiting in the backyard of their home. This time, the family mailed Elsa to a family friend in Minnesota who tapped the haunted doll to the front bumper of his truck. It doesn't seem to have made its way back to Houston yet, as per Madonna's latest February Facebook update on the creepy doll. A Deadly Exorcism. In August 2016, in North London, 26-year-old Kennedy Issei began acting strange and aggressive following a pain in his throat. He reportedly bit his father, threatened to cut off his own genitals, and complained of a python or a snake inside of him before his family restrained him to a bed with cable ties and excessive force. As the BBC reported, the family then set about attempting to cure Kennedy through restraint and prayer. Over the next 3 days, the court was told. His brother, Colin Issei, told police, "It's clear that thing was in him. What we believed was a demon because it was not natural. It was clearly trying to kill him," he said. "We had to restrain him for himself. It was clear if we didn't restrain him, he could have tried to harm people in our family." Kennedy Issei had been bound to his bed for 3 days without medical attention when his brother called emergency services explaining that Kennedy Issei was complaining of dehydration. He appeared to have developed breathing issues and was pronounced dead at 10:17 a.m. As the Independent reported, while police were at the house, Colin Issei allegedly carried out an attempted resurrection by chanting and praying for Mr. Issei. All 7 of Kennedy Issei's family members were accused of manslaughter, false imprisonment, and causing or allowing the death of a vulnerable adult. A post-mortem examination revealed over 60 wounds, including a possible bite on Kennedy Issei's body, and his father, Kenneth Issei, along with 4 of his brothers, sustained injuries as well. The BBC reported Kenneth Issei told jurors he ordered his sons to take shifts and use overwhelming force, but denied that an association with cults, occults, and secret societies played any part in the death. After a 4-day jury deliberation, all 7 family members were cleared of charges on March 14th, 2019. Dead animals in the walls. When the Bretzers family decided to insulate their home in Auburn, Pennsylvania in 2015, they discovered that it had already been with scores of dead animal carcasses. As Fox reported, the dead animals were wrapped in newspapers from the 1930s and 40s and were among half-used spices and other items. After removing the items, they sent hundreds of artifacts and carcasses to an expert in Kutztown. The expert attributed the rotting animals in their walls to powwow or Dutch magic, a ritual originating in the culture of the Pennsylvania Dutch to treat ailments and gain physical and spiritual protection. The Pennsylvania Dutch were a group of German-speaking settlers to Pennsylvania in the 1600s and 1700s and are often of Lutheran, Mennonite, or Amish faiths. The Washington Post notes on the magic, many of the spells deal with the care of livestock, finding water, or the treatment of minor ailments, reflecting the conditions and concerns of early American settlers. But powwow also has within it a tradition of darker spells and even of such things as conjuring demons. One notable ritual in their tradition is this hex to create loyalty in a dog. To attach a dog to a person, provided nothing else was used before to effect it, try to draw some of your blood and let the dog eat it along with his food, and he will stay with you forever. The mold found on the rotting carcasses in the Bretzers' home has caused illness amongst the family members, and they say that the odor hasn't gone away. Florida devil worshipping. Friends noticed that Danielle Harkins, a 35-year-old schoolteacher near St. Petersburg, Florida, started acting strangely in June of 2012, developing an interest in demonic rituals. Soon after, she was arrested for abuse of 7 of her former students. As the Tampa Bay Times reported, Danielle Harkins told the kids they needed to rid their bodies of demons. As the group gathered before dusk Saturday around a small fire near the St. Petersburg Pier, they should cut their skin to let the evil spirits out. Police said she told the children. Then they needed to burn the wound to ensure that those spirits would not return. When Harkins held a lighter to one teen's hand, wind blew the flame out. Police said that prompted her to douse his hand in perfume before setting it on fire. The boy suffered second-degree burns, police said. Another teen was cut on the neck with a broken bottle. Police said Harkins used the flame to heat a small key, which she then used to cauterize the wound. The police were notified because a friend of one of the students who participated in the ritual raised alarms. However, none of the students themselves told their parents about the event or would comment following the arrest of Harkins for aggravated battery and child abuse. NBC reported investigators said they've spoken to Harkins, but she didn't spell out what type of religion would require such drastic measures. She hasn't informed us exactly what she was trying to accomplish with this.
A teacher at a community center in Pinellas County is facing child abuse charges tonight after police say she encouraged her students to cut each other. It was all part of a bizarre cleansing ritual. Fox 13 Steph DiPietrantonio is here now to tell us more about what was going on. Steph?
Hey there, Kelly. Danielle Harkins is in jail tonight, accused of some pretty horrific things. St. Pete police say she convinced a group of 7 former students of hers to cut their skin to let the evil spirits out and then burn the wounds so the spirits couldn't get back into their bodies. The parents of the 7 victims, 6 boys and 1 girl, might call Danielle Harkins the face of evil. Saturday, St. Pete police say she gathered the kids in a park near the pier, built a small fire.
There was apparently some chanting and dancing around this fire that was taking place.
And then police say she encouraged them to cut each other in some sort of demonic ritual to release the evil spirits from their bodies.
They would follow that up with some sort of cauterization of the wound to keep the evil spirits from getting back into the body.
This closing of the wound was done by heating a small key. Harkins is also accused of using perfume to fuel the so-called branding of a 16-year-old boy.
They placed like a cologne or perfume on his hand and then ignited that.
Police say they're having a tough time with the interviews.
The kids that participated in this were rather loyal to her. There was a lot of reluctance in discussing some of these issues with us.
Danielle Harkins.
Harkins is charged with 1 count of child abuse, 1 count aggravated battery. You might wonder, how could this story get any creepier? But police believe there's more we don't know yet. I rang Harkins' doorbell, but no one answered. Harkins' neighbors didn't want to go on camera. They said there's not much to say. They don't know much about her. They said she kept to herself, had 2 small children, but was struggling going through a messy divorce.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
The kids are former students of Harkins at the Leoman and Asian Neighborhood Family Center. Director Carolyn Chance showed me where Harkins worked the last 5 years.
She was a very good teacher, literacy specialist. Just recently, she started exploring religion, but I didn't know anything about demons or anything like that.
You've been in the business almost 50 years.
A long time.
You know how to read people.
I never saw this coming. Never.
Harkins is in jail on $55,000 bail. Now, we're told her 2 small children are staying with her ex-husband.
The death of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam was last seen on January 31st, 2013 in the lobby of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was vacationing through the West Coast, documenting the trip on her blog and checking in with her parents every day. On January 31st, those calls stopped. Lam had vanished. Soon the police were involved and her parents arrived to help with the search. They had nothing. That February, LAPD released elevator surveillance footage of Lam before her disappearance. The footage shows Lam behaving strangely in the elevator, appearing to talk with invisible people, peering around the corner of the door, crouching in the corner, and opening and closing the door. But what exactly is going on in this video raises more questions than answers. Theories range from psychotic episodes to demonic possession to unknown assailants just out of the camera's view. Around that time, hotel guests started to report weird things happening with the Cecil Hotel water supply. As CNN reports, the shower was awful, said Sabina Bog, who spent 8 days there during the investigation. When you turned the tap on, the water was coming in black first for 2 seconds and then it was going back to normal. The tap water tasted horrible, Bog said. It had a very funny, sweety, disgusting taste. It's a very strange taste. I can barely describe it. But for a week, they never complained. We never thought anything of it. She said, we thought it was just the way it was here. On the morning of February 19th, a hotel employee climbed to the roof and used a ladder to investigate the hotel's water storage tanks. That's where authorities found the decomposing, naked body of Lam, whose personal items were found nearby. After an autopsy, her death was labeled accidental. NBC Los Angeles reported at the time about the strange circumstances in the hotel's past. The tank has a metal latch that can be opened, but authorities said access to the roof is secured with an alarm and the lock. The single-room occupancy hotel has an unusual history. Night stalker Richard Ramirez, who was found guilty of 14 slayings in the 1980s, lived on the 14th floor for several months. In 1985, an international serial killer, Jack Unterweger, is suspected of murdering 3 prostitutes during the time he lived there in 1991. He killed himself in jail in 1994. In 1962, a female occupant jumped out of one of the hotel's windows, killing herself and the pedestrian on whom she landed. In February 2021, a Netflix documentary called Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel explored Elisa's tragic case and the history of the cursed Cecil Hotel. An exorcism in Indianapolis. Last year, the Indianapolis Star published a lengthy report on a family terrorized by 3 children allegedly possessed by demons. The account of Latoya Emmons and her family tells disturbing stories of children climbing up the walls, getting thrown across rooms, and children threatening doctors in deep, unnatural voices. It would seem like something straight out of a movie, a work of a fantasy, except all of these accounts were more or less corroborated with nearly 800 pages of official records obtained by the Indianapolis Star and recounted in more than a dozen interviews with police, DCS personnel, psychologists, family members, and a Catholic priest. One of the more chilling sections of the report includes a segment about the possessed 9-year-old. According to Washington's original DCS report, an account corroborated by Walker, the nurse, the 9-year-old had a weird grin and walked backwards up a wall to the ceiling. He then flipped over Campbell, landing on his feet. He never let go of his grandmother's hand. Another segment of the piece reads, the 12-year-old would later tell mental health professionals that she sometimes felt as if she were being choked and held down so she couldn't speak or move. She said she heard a voice say she'd never see her family again and wouldn't live another 20 minutes.
It's your first look inside the house known as the Portal to Hell, a place where demons supposedly wrought havoc with a helpless family in horror straight out of The Exorcist.
The power of Christ compels you!
This man just bought the notorious house in Gary, Indiana for the bargain basement price of $35,000.
What compelled you to buy this house?
I have a passion for investigating claims of paranormal.
Zach Bagans is the host of the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures. We spoke inside the front porch, the precise spot where a terrorized mom claims that horseflies mysteriously swarmed in the dead of winter, as they did in the Amityville Horror. Then there was that mysterious figure that appeared in the window when the house was supposed to be empty. This is the other side of that window.
There are reports that there was a residue that would come down the blinds.
It was horrible.
This is the woman who lived in the House of Horrors with her 3 children before Zach Bagans bought it. Latoya Ammons fought back tears when she told us how they fled in terror after her daughter was raised right off her bed. She says the demons sounded like this.
We've waited 5 months. It sounded like something dead.
She says she anointed the rooms with holy oil and read aloud from the Bible, but the nightmare went on and listened to a sound that cannot be explained by police who looked into the mysterious goings-on. While 2 cops are talking in the basement, someone can be heard saying, "Hey." Embrace yourself for what Latoya says happened to her son when she and her mom took him to the hospital. It's right out of the movie Poltergeist.
He walked up the wall and did the backwards flip.
How did everybody in the hospital react to your son walking up the wall?
They took off and they ran. The doctor from the psych ward said that's not That's not real. That's not human. No human can do that.
Speaking of deep, mysterious voices,
You in there!
those are the chilling words Captain Charles Austin will never forget. The 36-year veteran of the Gary, Indiana Police Department had just finished investigating strange occurrences in the house and was in his patrol car talking on the phone when he says something bizarre happened.
All of a sudden, while I'm involved in this conversation, the AM/FM radio went to static and turned up very loud, and it said, "You in there?" And the person on the phone say, "What the hell was that?" And I say, "I don't know."
What was your reaction?
I was in shock.
Enter Father Michael Maginot, a local priest who got permission from the Bishop of Gary, Indiana, to perform an exorcism on LaToya.
Did you at one point believe this house was the portal to hell?
There was a portal.
LaToya moved out of the house and now lives many miles away. She knows her story is hard to believe.
Some people claim that you made this all up, that this was some sort of an elaborate hoax. Is this a hoax?
No, I don't feel that someone will have a reason to make something up like that.
Do you believe that house is possessed by demons?
I do. I feel that it's something very bad going on in that house.
Utah murder suicide. In September of 2014, a Utah teen returned to his home to find his parents and 3 siblings dead. In a notebook, a to-do list had been scribbled on the pages. The list looked as if the parents were readying to go on a vacation. Items such as feed the pets and find someone to watch after the house were written. The Salt Lake Tribune reported it appeared to be a murder-suicide, but there was no suicide note, no prior indication that they would do this, no explanation. Police could not figure out why 2 parents would kill themselves and 3 of their 4 children. For a year, no one knew exactly what happened to the family or what would drive the parents to do something so unthinkable. In January, police released more chilling details in this case. According to accounts from family members and an investigation by police, the parents were driven by a belief that the apocalypse was coming and an obsession with a convicted killer. As the Washington Post reported, friends and family told police that the parents were worried about the evil in the world and wanted to escape a pending apocalypse, but most assured they just wanted to move somewhere off the grid. Investigators also found letters written by Christy Strack to one of the state's most infamous convicted killers, Dan Lafferty, who was convicted in the 1984 fatal stabbing of his sister-in-law and her 1-year-old daughter. According to trial testimony, he killed the victims at the order of his brother, Ron Lafferty, who claimed to have had a revelation from God. The story became a book called Under the Banner of Heaven. Police said Christy Strack became friends with Dan Lafferty, and she and her husband even visited him in prison. The Phone Stalker. In 2007, ABC News documented a series of cell phone calls to families with terrifyingly specific death threats. The unidentified callers knew exactly what families were doing and what they were wearing. The families say the calls come in at all hours of the night, threatening to kill their children, their pets, and grandparents. Voicemails arrive, playing recordings of their private conversations, including one with a local police detective. The caller knows the families said what they're wearing and what they're doing, and after months of investigation, police seems powerless to stop them. This went on with the Kuykendall family for months, who reported a caller with a scratchy voice threatening to slit their throats. When the Faircrest Wash police tried to find a culprit, the calls were tracked back to the Kuykendall's own phones, even when they were turned off. It got worse. The Kuykendalls and 2 other Faircrest families told ABC News that they believe the callers are using their cell phones to spy on them. They say the hackers know their every move, where they are, what they're doing, and what they're wearing. The callers have recorded private conversations, the families and police said, including a meeting with a local detective. The Watcher. After moving into their $1.3 million dream home, a New Jersey family started receiving creepy death threats from someone who identified themselves as the Watcher. As CBS News reported earlier this year, since moving in, the owners said they have received numerous letters from the mysterious person. The Watcher claimed the home has been the subject of my family for decades, and I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming, Castro reported. The new owners have several children, and other letters asked, have they found out what's in the walls yet? And I am pleased to know your names now, and the name of the young blood you have brought to me. The family was forced to flee from their home and later filed a lawsuit against the previous owners. Issei the Canibal. In 1974, 24-year-old Wako University student Issei Sakawa allegedly followed a German woman to her home in Tokyo, Japan, broke into her apartment while she was sleeping, and attempted to cut a piece of flesh off of her body to consume. When she awoke, she reportedly fought him, and he was later captured by the police. According to a 2012 Vice documentary that covered Issei's bizarre story, he was mistakenly charged with attempted rape, and his wealthy father paid the victim a settlement outside of court to have the charges dropped.
Others wanted me to be Catholic. No, not me. I have no right to be Catholic. I'm too dirty. 카니발리즘っていうのはとてもフェティッシュな願望に驚いていると思う。好きな人の唇を舐めたいとか原始的な欲求に基づいていると思います。妄想の一つです。なるべく痛い。
生きたままじゃやっぱり無理だって言うと、それは食べれば死ぬでしょうみたいなことだっけ。でもそうでもないと思うんだけどね。一部分の肉を噛んで食べるとか、でもそれじゃあ満足できなかった。
満足できない。
怖いとか気持ち悪い妄想とかとついて言われるね、これはいくらなんでも。
他に食べたいのありますか
？7 years later, in 1981, he allegedly committed a murder in France, shooting and eating a fellow university student, René Hartevelt. Issei creepily documented the entire experience with photographs, and he was captured by authorities once again while attempting to dump the rest of her body in the Bois de Boulogne lake. He was deported back to Japan and committed to a mental institution for reasons unknown. His psychologist in Japan declared that he was sane. Furthermore, a legal technicality involving the French government refusing to turn over the documents from his case meant that his murder charges were dropped completely. He checked himself out of the mental hospital and has reportedly been walking the streets as a free man ever since. Issei has ever become a controversial celebrity, writing over 20 books, according to Japan Today. I hope you guys enjoyed this creepy top 13 real-life horror stories. These creepy stories would make anyone's blood go cold. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe for more content like this. I will continue posting scary videos and story readings for you to enjoy. If you have any suggestions for the next video topic, please leave it in the comments below. Join our community on Discord, the link is in the description. And as always, staying toxic, yet friendly.